you?
Well, thanks.
I altered your grammar because it sounded terrible. At least you do that though, so you don't sound like a total idiot. Like you censor things out and you're like, oh. Oops. Now that's interesting. I like the way you did that. I like that. That's from myself. Oh, I like. I just literally punched the numbers. Oh, I like that. Thanks. Right background. Oh, change the background. Oh. It's not what I wanted. Ooh, science 101, what do energy drinks do to your body? Nothing good. Oh, yeah. Did you see how I needed some visual? Oh my god. That works. Okay. I can handle that. Wasn't me. Don't look at me. Right there. I need to go see. You need to check out some stuff.
The kids name themselves?
These are not really looking at the quotes on my wall. Very nice, except for that I have some kids who are like super inappropriate.
Oh no.
I tried to cover up for really bad ones, so I didn't have enough to cover up some of them.
You sure you have the date on there?
Yeah,
Yes,
and
and
remember
remember,
like,
did you
yeah,
get stickers or something?
I did, and a lot of kids do Harambe quotes.
Whoa.
Really? So I tried to cover
Mom
up as
told
many
me
that
to.
were about
No,
like
Mom ended up writing.
Oh. Harambe took a shot for you, take one from him, you know, stuff like that. Isn't it purry?
Right there.
I know.
So we've got a representation. Oh yeah, kids are obsessed with this. I'm not a big
There was a gorilla, a separate gorilla, 2 days ago that grabbed a piece of wood from its enclosure and popped it and it hit some DNA.
They put the same thing you were sitting with us. Josh and
There he is.
Oh, that one.
yeah, there's.
Morning, all. Logistic things. I got an attendance because we have to keep attendance because, of course, we can't do anything in attendance without, attendance. And if you brought a laptop, which of course is being a tech thing, go ahead and go to this website, peardeck.com/join. It will ask you to log in with a Google account, but ideally everyone has a Google account. It's not going to track you or do anything like look over your shoulder or Big Brother-y kind of thing, or it's not going to do any of that. It's a small company out of Kansas. Enter this. This will enter code it, and then we'll get started in a couple minutes.
And I'm just like losing my freaking mind. And they weren't done, and I just had to stop and be like, I'm really sorry, but I really need to.
No.
He just seemed
with this word, he's like, it's okay.
She's really
we're gonna allow Pear Deck to access your Google thing, and it'll log in with your Google account and go ahead and log into the Pear Deck thing. While you're doing that, I'll do a move these chairs out of the way. Sorry, I forget that when working with a bunch of educators for a conference, everyone sits in the back, just like our students like to do.
Heather were in here.
Are you sure that your friends want to sit with you?
I know, good question. It really is.
You want to sit with them, granted, but I always make that presumption, and then they get up and move. But I don't take the hint well. I just don't learn. So one of the, I know you all are here for essential tools for proficiency-based learning environments. My name is Matt. This is non-threatening. I'm just closing it because my voice is very loud and obnoxious. And this code will be on the screen the whole time. So if you haven't logged in yet, you can go ahead and do so pretty much any time. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome to Moose Tech. If this is your first time at Moose Tech, welcome to Moose Tech. If this is your second, third, fourth, or fifth time here at Moose Tech, welcome back. Yes. This is an amazing opportunity in our schools for this region here. Not many other regions in the state do this kind of thing, where they do a collaborative get together, bring people together for a day of collaborative learning, and it's a really special, unique thing that is happening here that I'm thrilled to be a part of again for the 5th year. My name's Matt. I'm the Director of Curriculum Instruction Assessment for AOS 94, which is down in Dexter area. So we're one of the groups who kind of helps put this on. Some of you in the room know me. Some of you may not know me. Some of you may have heard of my name. Some of you may feel like, I don't know who this Yahoo is with the beard and long hair. What is with the long hair? Seriously, cut your hair. If to find more information about me, you see it on your screen there. But you also have me on Twitter. I tweet a lot about education stuff. If you're not on Twitter, one of the things that I would challenge you to do today is to get on Twitter and start following some folks who are on Twitter who are in this room. It is the best source of professional development you will ever find. It's not just, I'm sitting on my porch right now, which is a commercial from about 5-6 years ago or so. What it is, it's an ability to connect educators who are saying, I have a question. Does anyone know how to do fill in the blank? And invariably, in a short period of time, you'll get 10 answers. You know how to use the program. Next door, Jonathan Werner, he's doing some stuff on that today for social media and Twitter. It is empowering. It puts you in charge of your own professional learning instead of having to come to a conference where you might sit in a session and then realize, oh, this session isn't for me, but I feel obligated to stay in that session, so now it's kind of a waste of my day, a waste of my time. It's more personalized, it's more direct, but it also connects you to the real-time expertise in the world. So one of the reasons why I'm able to do this kind of thing is because of Twitter, because of the amount of learning that I've gotten from there. So it's an amazing piece. So anyway, I do tweet a lot, but you can find me online there. I'm also just down the road at Dexter. So there you go. For those of you who are not familiar, AOS 94 is where I do my work. You should see it on your screen. If you're connected to Pear Deck, you should be seeing our website. Are you seeing that? But anyway,
Alright, maybe it's Chrome because all three of us.
It might be Chrome.
So let's try.
but AOS94.org is our website, and a lot of the one of the things that's really special and unique about our district, Denton-Dexter area, is that we are recognized throughout the state and actually a lot of the country now as one of the leaders in terms of developing and creating systems of proficiency-based learning. Because of ways in which that we're doing things, the tools that we use, which I'm going to share some of which today. Because we're doing things in very innovative ways, and in ways that we want to share with y'all. So, is this on your screen now?
I'm getting there.
Your Pear Deck screen?
Yes.
Oh, yes. My light bulb is still on proficiency.
Gotta go back.
Which just made me go.
You gotta go back. You gotta go back to it.
Okay. So you can see, you can read on the screen the objectives and intended outcomes. What I'm hoping you will be able to get out of today, or this short hour-and-a-half session. There's going to be some of me talking, but there's also going to be some of you doing. And it's going to be a mixture of both, because part of what we have to do is a little bit of both. We only have a short period of time together, so to get some not only coverage and breadth-wise, but also depth, there's got to be a little bit in that short time. But as we all know, time is a constraint. We never have enough time to do everything. One of the biggest things that we always hear is we don't have enough time. We don't have enough time. We just don't have enough time. We never will. So instead of thinking of it in terms of as a restriction, let's think of it as a design opportunity. Time constraints are a design opportunity. An opportunity to say, what can we make within the constraints that we have? What can we do? And that is some of the mindset that we've been, from an administrator down to our small teams, trying to really push forward with our staff. Yeah, time is a restraint. It happens. Poverty is a restraint. It happens. There are things that are outside of our control that are constraints. What can we do within those constraints to make significant impact? And that's where this whole thing kind of revolves around. So one of the things that we are going to do today is we're going to hopefully get you to the point of a 3 on a proficiency scale. A 3 for today's work is to be able to depict critical aspects of multiple essential tools for proficiency-based learning environments in a pictorial or symbolic form. The reason why I chose that language is because this is at the highest level of comprehension in the Marzano taxonomy of cognitive complexity, cognitive learning. And if these words are going to like, I heard Marzano, and then after that, I just got completely lost. Don't worry, we're going to get there. If by the end of this time you're only able to identify some tools, demonstrate how to use them, and describe key parts, that's okay. One of the things to remember throughout this piece is it doesn't matter if you are proficient at the end. I don't expect everyone to be. It's an hour and a half. Learning takes time, and all of you are individuals, and all of you take different times, different pathways, need different approaches to how to learn. You might not get there today. That's fine. A 2 is not failure. A 2 does not meet. A 2 is you're learning. That's a key mindset shift. Because right now when we have like state assessments, which are all coming up in a few weeks, hooray! We have what's coming up, a 2 is partially meets, which is terrible language. Partially meets, what the heck does partially meets mean? We don't know. Partially meets what? Partially meets how? How is that good communication? So, a 2 is not just doing it the foundational stuff, but it's also independently. Can you do it by yourself? If I were to say to you, hey, can you identify essential tools? You can say, oh yeah, here. Identifying them. If you can't identify them, or you need someone to help you identify them, then you're at a 1. Okay, so this is where I'm hoping we're going to get to by the end of the day today, and we will move on. Does it ask you a question on the screen? There's a red dot. There is a question. Perfect. So what I would like you to do is take that red dot and drag it to the number on the scale around where you think you are right now in terms of being able to do these things. Why is it only showing one? All right. So on the screen, on my screen up here, you can see where everyone put their responses. So what I can do right now is I can look at this and I can gauge where I think people are right now. All right? So I can see based on a very quick poll, most people are at a with support. 1 or 2 people are at a kind of independent, but a low independent. I'm going to assume that that's kind of lowish on there. I'm making that assumption. Some people have said there's no evidence. I don't really know what that means, unless it means that they know nothing, which is fine. That's totally great. So what I now know is where we are. I'm going to lock this screen so that now you can't change your dot. You can't change your little thumb. Okay? Now you're locked into where you are. You decided where you were. No changing. No changing your votes. It's been cast. All right. If you would please, you'll see on your screen 4 quadrants. If you would please drag your dot or whatever to about where it is that you teach. I like to see how you figure that out. Yeah, that's me, by the way. I'm evil admin. We're the ones who do the things like always make you teachers do the things. Then we get to walk away, go back to our office, and laugh maniacally.
How often does this feature have bugs?
What do you mean?
Like the dragging things around, is it pretty much always work?
Yeah. The best part about it is inevitably, I'm amazed that it hasn't happened with y'all. I live in the South, I'm allowed to say y'all. But I'm amazed that what hasn't happened yet. It happens every time I do this with Pear Deck, and with students, somebody plays Pong. Because you can move your thing back and forth, like, that's so cool, I can drag it around. Wow, nobody's doing that, which is amazing. So either you're too tired, or you're just not impressed. Not because I'm pointing it out. Someone will invariably say, oh, go up like the nose. Oh, I'm going up the nose. It happens. I mean, kids will do that, right? And they'll be able to say things like, all right, get it out of your system. Get it out of your system. And I'm going to lock the screen down in 3, 2, 1. There we go. Now you can't move it anymore. So it becomes a distraction. Now they're locked in. Which, by the way, I'll be able to take, at the end of this, I'll be able to take this whole screen and see where everyone left off. And I can actually also aggregate it to see individual people. Okay? Which, by the way, one of the reasons why I use this tool, which, if you don't know Pear Deck, it is probably, if you do any kind of PowerPoint presentation, and you have students with devices, computer, tablet, or phone, in your room, if you're doing a PowerPoint is typically a passive means of learning for the student. It is passive. They are sitting there ideally absorbing, or they're putting their heads down, or they're doing that whole move where they're sitting behind the table, the desk, they're sitting back like this, They got their phone on the lap. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I got you. They're doing that move, which I love. This way, guess what I'm doing? I'm forcing them to engage, even with their devices. And I can see when they're engaged, and I can see when they're not. I can see on my little dashboard over there when they've actually left the screen that we're on. Constant vigilance, as Mad-Eye Moody would say. For you, sorry, we're reading that with my kids. All right, so we're all over the map in terms of mostly K4 to 912 and a couple outliers. All right, so here's what we're going to do now. Who, me? Okay. A couple of logistics. One, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, this is your time. If you at any point feel like I'm done or I can't handle this anymore, leave. I'm not here to supervise you. If you feel the need, like, oh, I have to stand up because these chairs are uncomfortable, stand up. You take care of yourself. We're professionals. We're adults here. That's how I treat it. It's not my show. This is what you need. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. We're talking about proficiency-based learning. I'd like you to get with a partner. If there has to be one group of three, there can be, because that's how things have, or two groups of three. Well, no, it doesn't. We're actually even numbers here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 2 minutes, and only 2 minutes, to develop 3 words that define the word proficient. We're talking about proficiency-based learning. We're talking about tools for proficiency-based learning. So let's be on the same page what that means. You're going to have 2 minutes. Time is a constraint, but let's make it a design opportunity. Ready? 2 minutes. Go. Find a partner. 3 words. There are sticky notes and markers on every table. There are no wrong answers except the wrong ones. One word. Three words. Maybe think of it in terms of this. These 3 words define proficient. You have a minute left.
We are brainstorming and we're you have different views. She's good.
Hey, don't say you could cheat on work or orders here.
What are you talking about?
It's not a race, but there are prizes for getting done first. I'm kidding.
I love fries. That's how I live. It's like one of those.
Here, there's candy up here.
Candy bar, yes.
Oh, I know you have to move. You were too old for this. 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7. All right, that's time. Now, here's where there's going to have to be some movement. What you're going to do is you're going to share your words with another group, but they can't be at the same table or area. You have to move around. All right? So, you're going to merge your group with another group. merge your group, share your definition of proficient, each other ask some clarifying questions, get to understand what you all thought, and then, with the 4 of you, develop 3 new words, or come to agreement upon 3 new words of what proficient means. You have 4 minutes.
They don't have a group to merge with.
We have
odd number.
well, because we have 3 in our group. We're just
Can we merge with them?
Yeah. Look, you all, you can figure this out.
Okay. I can't be in your group or I would, but we're in
I
the same
know.
We do all have
Baseline and benchmark are fairly similar, yeah.
I really like mastery. I think that really kind of works well.
We sort of bat around mastery versus skills. Kind of like but if you're proficient, not necessarily a master. That was my argument, but we, like I said, we had sort of batted around both.
But wait,
We're going to skip the candy.
More candy. The idea of like checklist. Yeah. Like.
You're under a minute.
I can live on candy though. Because then what happens is that when I have my presentation, I'm gonna pick one and three, and they have to be. So I'm gonna take it all from one of them. That's what I end up doing. I end up taking all of them. I've had obviously.
Can you check at a 3? Check at a 3 and move on.
20 seconds.
I don't remember it. Okay. So I say proficient.
Whatever versus mastery. Great question.
Baseline. 5 seconds. All right, that's time. You should be done. Time. There's never enough time. Remember that.
There is. There's always only what you have. That's all there is.
That's all you have. That's all you have.
And so it's enough. That's all there is.
All right. So the next step in this little process that we're going through here is your screen should change, but don't enter anything in yet. Because one person from your group, you can choose who that is going to be, is going to enter in your group-wide definition, words, etc., of what proficient means. Another person from your group is going to take one of these larger sticky notes, write those down, and put them up on one of these. We only have 2 groups, so there'll be 2 sticky notes on the chart paper. Okay?
Your paper, right?
So one person does the technology, one person does the sticky note.
I have like a little one.
What's the word? Just those 3 knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Do this
Yep.
again.
Giant.
Would you like one on each?
However you want to do it, I will make work. When you have those words on the sticky note, please go put them on the chart paper up there. And whoever it is that has entered into things, so it looks like they're already done, I will project those in just a moment. Once we have things, obviously.
No.
That's usually, he's usually our target.
He's just so easy.
He is.
Then I doubt myself. I need the exercise. I got a donut and a muffin and a muffin. You just want a minute?
Yep.
Oh, they did them separate.
So these should add up. What I'd like to do now, have you all do, is take a moment and look at each other's words. See what each other had, what everyone here had to say, and think to yourself, what is, how might we act based on these words, what we know right now, because we are all experts in this room on what it means to be educators, what it means to have learning happen in our classroom. What does proficient mean? Think about it in your head based on what we all know in here right now. The reason why I had you do it up there too is because in a moment I'm going to have each of you independently write on the screen here a definition of proficiency. There's a very good reason why we're doing this, by the way. Beyond just words, you have the words. What would be a definition? How might we define proficient? What it means to be proficient? Based on what you know, and based on what we have said. Go ahead. Once this is done, once you're finished with this part, I'll give you another minute or so. Because time is a constraint. I'm going to start sharing with you how we are doing it in AOS 94.
I've already picked it up.
Get away from my
So this is good. It's like actually
I like
some
that.
little ponies underneath. I broke
I just
one.
made it.
It gets up to like here.
Yeah, because I need that.
So but I broke one of them. So yeah,
People have said that students can independently show what they know about a given subject or standard. Competent in a given subject area, standard, or target. So, common areas. Show what they know. Competence, subject, and standards. These are some common language. Competent and skillful at doing a task. Competent coming up again. Independently demonstrate the content. Independence has come up again. Benchmark, or a standard or target. So, again, we have very common understandings. Proficient means understanding at a level that is sufficient. Able to express evidence of a specific competence. Knowledgeable and independent learners who show competence at their task, individuals with baseline level of knowledge, know it and can use it. That's pretty simple. And I like simple.
That's me.
That's the thing. One of the things I want you all to remember is that sometimes this proficiency-based stuff can feel overwhelming and feel like it's wildly complicated. It's really not. And that's one of the things I want to help with you to understand today with some of the tools. And one of the tools that we're using, an essential tool for proficiency-based learning, is one of the things that we are doing right now. Possibly the most essential tool that I would argue is a thing called common language. Language is our most powerful tool as human beings. It is more powerful than a nuclear weapon. A nuclear weapon can destroy, language can build. And with building, that's real power. One of the things that we just did, one of the reasons why I had you all pair up and then group bigger, is because expertise is in the room, and using a thing called empathy, or understanding, and finding out where you all are at, and finding where each other are at, it helps build a common level of understanding and breaks down the wall like, hey, whether you're a K-4 teacher or a high school teacher or somewhere outside of this realm, we are all still kind of on the same page. We're really close. We might not use the exact same words, but we have similar meanings. And I don't know what that means.
That's
Is
the
that something
normal.
wrong?
That's
They
normal.
just
Bells.
didn't shut our
They didn't
radio
shut
off.
the bells
I
off.
thought I may have
No.
screwed something up and broken something.
That means it's time for snack.
Snack time.
You should say snack, not nap, because I got very excited.
I know, right?
Either one, I'm very enthusiastic for, snacks and naps. And when we're talking common language, it's more so than just a definition of proficient. It gets deeper than that. And so if you're going to create a proficiency-based learning environment, the first thing you have to do with yourself, with your students, but also your colleagues in your system, is to create a common language. So one of the things I'm curious about do you have a common language of instruction at classroom, school, or district level? Depending on where you are, if you're a classroom teacher, administrator, or somewhere else, do you have a common language of instruction? And what I mean by a common language of instruction is, have you in your building or in your department, have you collectively defined what proficient is? Have you collectively defined what good instruction, what effective instruction, assessment, curriculum look like, feel like? Have you gone and done this? The yellow is hard to see, but as you can see, most people already know. One of the reasons why proficiency-based learning systems fail more often than not is because a common level of understanding, a common language of instruction is not there. If you have 10 people, we've all played the game telephone, right? You know that even using a simple sentence going around 10 people, it's going to change somehow. Well, now see if you can do proficiency, completely change an educational paradigm, flip it on its complete head, which is what proficiency-based learning is doing. It's getting away from a teacher-centered environment to a more student-centered environment. It's understanding what the students know and can do and then moving them forward from there. If you're not on the same page with that, if you think that like proficient equals a 3 equals a B equals 85%, I think I hit a nerve there.
Yeah, you did. Because what if we're being told from multiple venues that we need to live in these 2, 3, 4 different language worlds, and we can't have common language because everybody needs to be able to interpret that in their own classroom. Because that's how I feel. I just feel like it sounds great, but if I'm the only person saying it, then my school can't move forward. Right,
There are no spies.
Then try it in the arts.
What's that?
Then try it in the arts.
Try what in the arts?
To get a language that is usable by administration to
That's because they don't understand the arts.
I know. And I'm
That's-
sure I do.
That's because there's a big difference between thinky learning and performance learning.
Exactly.
And there's a big difference between doing it and thinking about it and articulating it. So then how might we be able to get the thinky learning outside of the headspace and put it into a physical, practical, applicable learning space?
That we can honestly measure.
Right, honestly measured. Right? Which we're going to get to the measurement part in a minute, because that's the thing that comes up. So the thing about, does it have to be dual systems? I will tell you this, and I'm fairly certain that there's at least one person in the room who will probably help with this. When you try to do dual systems, it becomes a nightmare. It becomes next to impossible. It becomes, you can't. it's literally oil and water. To do a percentage-based, averaging-based, teacher-centered system, to then try to also say we're also going to do a proficiency-based, student-centered system that is measuring in a scale-based format, those two things don't work together. Because there are common core principles of each that are in direct conflict with each other at all points. So you kind of have to create a language of instruction. Now, could you create guiding principles or principles of grading and learning that mirror, that can be used in a percentage-based grading system? Absolutely. Can you do percentage-based grading in a student-centered format? Yes. You can. Then we get into questions of why would we? Who is it benefiting to do that? And the question you have to ask them is why are we so holding on to it? Is it for the students, the parents, the administrators, the teachers, the community? Who? Students, in the end, really don't care. Parents only want to know, how's my kid doing? Community wants to know, how's their school doing? Who's left? The administrators and the teachers in the room. And the adults in the room is not why we're here. We're not here to make our jobs easier. We're here to make learning environments for students so they can move and grow. We're here for them. So our learning environments need to mirror what they need. So percentage-based, does that work for them? Not us. Does it work for them? We're the adults and the professionals in the room. We're the ones who just say, if it doesn't work for them, we need to change it.
The high school level,
Yep.
many people would say it doesn't work for college. Or parents is
Remember what I said earlier?
Yeah, I'm hearing
Same
that.
applies.
I'm your side. I'm just saying the response that a lot of times we get is colleges don't like when teachers report.
And here's where you can say to that. One, colleges accept people who are homeschooled, who come with GPAs of a 6.9. How does that happen? They get students with no GPA. They get students with no grades. They'll get students who on the transcript, the grade says giraffe, tomato, book, albatross. It doesn't matter. And in fact, the New England Secondary School Consortium, online at newenglandssc.com or .org, whatever it is, they have a list of over 55 or 60 now colleges and universities, not just in the New England area, but across the country now, who have publicly endorsed proficiency-based, rubric-based, scale-based learning and grading that it will not be looked at any differently than traditional percentage-based grading. And this is not just Bob's College of Knowledge who's doing this. Little schools like Harvard and MIT. MIT, by the way, is actually doing a thing where a lot of their schools are eliminating grades now because of the negative impact that actually grades can have on a small part of education that's called learning. Grades can have a very detrimental and negative impact on learning, and more people are finding that. If you've ever had a student who said, "Oh, I got an 80%, that's good enough for me to pass, I'm good." You just stopped learning. You halted it by that grade. How is that promoting lifelong learning if we are in our systems by themselves saying you only have to do that much? You don't have to actually get it. But if you do something long enough, that's good enough. Why do we do it that way? And there are lots of reasons. We're not going to get into the whole history of proficiency-based learning. You can look up folks like Rick Wormley online and Sir Ken Robinson. Ken Robinson's TED Talks, Schools Kill Creativity, and all that kind of stuff. So what I wanted to share with you, and we'll see how close you are, hopefully this comes up for you too, doing down in AOS 94 is we are defining proficiency in these three, it's actually broken into 3 words. The reason why I did this is I want you to reflect now and see those 3 words that you end up, as a small group, as a middle group, and a larger group came up with. See how close you are to what we've done. Again, establishing common language, not just in a small group, but in a region. Okay? We're defining proficiency as these 3 main points: content, autonomy, and complexity. For your words, independence came up a lot. Content came up a lot. Competence. Knowledgeable, competent, that's complex. That's where we're getting to complexity. And I mentioned that Marzano taxonomy of cognitive learning, cognitive demand earlier. That's what we mean by complexity. So what we've gone and done in AOS 94 is by creating and break down proficiency in these 3 terms, basic terms. We're doing this pre-K to 12. We're also including our tech center in this, the regional tech center, in how we build a scale, how we build an understanding what proficient means. We're all not that far off. So again, it's these 3 criteria. You should be seeing now, ideally, yes, good. It's all working. I like this. On your screen, it's split now, but there's the screen, and you also have a Google Doc. By the way, these I'll make sure these Google Docs they're all available on the all the templates of these things that are there. You can download and make copies of them yourself via the Moose Camp or Moose Tech resources folder. They're in there, and you'll see at the end of this, by entering in your email address, you should be getting an email from Pear Deck, from this thing, so you'll get this whole slide with your responses. So you can see how you responded. Not everyone else's response is just yours. So if you look at the levels of the proficiency scale, which is different than a rubric, we'll get into that in a minute, maybe, I think so, yeah. We have these 3 areas. 3 elements are embedded in each. We start at the level 3. A proficiency scale is the next best tool for you to design and use in your classrooms, schools, and districts to measure learning, to measure proficiency. You take your common language and you build a scaffolded scale off of it. And you do the scaffolding by using these basic rules, these criteria. 1, the content remains constant. Constant content, cue Katie Lang. Anyone get that reference? Constant phrasing, Katie Lang. There you go. All right. I have constant references from movies and music and television shows from the 80s and 90s constantly going through my head. And apparently I've had caffeine today. I'm not supposed to have caffeine. It affects my anxiety. That's why I'm kind of manicky. Sorry. I thought it was decaf. But the content remains constant. If you notice in the scale that's there, the content of the standard is going to remain basically the same. At every single level, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 4. 0, there's no evidence. One of the big misunderstandings in proficiency-based learning, by the way, is that you can't use zeros. That's wrong. You can use zeros. You don't use zeros on a 100-point scale. Zeros on a 100-point scale are killers to a student. I remember when I was doing academic remediation work about 10 years ago down in Winthrop, I had some students who was getting a D in an advanced mathematics class, was getting A pluses on all of the tests. You know why he was getting D's? Wasn't doing homework. Was getting zeros on all the homework. Right? Is that D or D plus an accurate reflection of that student's mathematics ability? Not at all. Zeros are killers. And what zeros also do is they invalidate the score. Zeros on a 100-point scale. They invalidate the score on the transcript and on the report card. make it inaccurate. Just like I have a test, and it's a really hard test, so to make it a little easier, there's 10 bonus points. If you can give me a good joke that I'm going to laugh about at the end, I'll give you an extra 10 points. That has nothing to do with the measured content. So now you're inflating the grade or deflating the grade. How does that tell us what the student actually knows and can do? It doesn't. A scale is more right at the three areas, the content, the complexity, which is how the student, it's the verbs basically involved in the standard. So if you say demonstrate competency, I don't know what that means, but which is why I would recommend using a taxonomy. We're going to get to that another tool in a moment. You might say analyze, compare and contrast, identify, describe, depict critical aspects in symbolic or pictorial form. Now I'm able to say whether or not you're able to actually do that. The benefit of a scale is that if you have people coming together with an idea or a standard or a performance expectation, you can then say, it makes life so much easier for assessment, which I'm going to get into later on in the next session. But I'll tell you right now, assessment, all it needs to be for a summative score, an end score, a final exam grade, if you will, give the kid the standard and walk away. Show me what you can do. Show me what you got. I don't have to make a test anymore. I don't have to make all these other questions anymore. Nuh-uh. If I want you to be independent and show me how to do this, which is what the real world expects of these students, we should be able to give them the expectation. If we've done our job as instructors enough, done instruction well enough, we should be able to give them this standard, say, show me what you got. Prove to me. And you have an hour. Go. One of the worst, but also most memorable final exams I got in college. I was a philosophy major, by the way, which will explain about the long hair. One of the worst classes I had was called Early Modern Philosophy. Great reading, like Descartes and Locke and all this other great stuff. Hume. The worst final exam, we walk in, you have 2.5 hours, here's the question, what is early modern philosophy? I now have to write the entire course in 2.5 hours. It was really freaking hard. But what a good demonstration of do you understand what early modern philosophy is? I'm not going to have a bunch of questions like, what did John Locke say about this? Or what did Descartes say? What is this? No, it's not about that. That's just memorization and recall. I want you to be able to apply and synthesize and really be able to understand and prove that you know what it is. The best part about a scale, too, is that you're going to have some students say, I'm really comfortable in writing. You're going to have some students say, I can't write worth a damn. But I can make movies like you wouldn't believe. I'm really into stop motion animation. Can I do it that way? Doesn't matter to me. Prove it on the scale. It's how you prove it. So it opens up opportunities and pathways for various learning. It gets the teacher out of the, I have to create this kind of test for this learner, and this one for this learner, and this one for this learner. There's so much that how do I manage with like personalizing learning? You don't. They do. In proficiency-based learning and personalized learning environments, the power and the responsibility of learning is exactly where it should be on the learner. The biggest question to get to this point is, yeah, the kids won't do it. Of course they won't do it. We have encouraged them to not do it over the course of their lives. We have trained them, we have built in this system of learned helplessness into them. My 8-year-old has finally learned, she does not come to ask me, can you help me with this? Because I'll say, do you want help or do you want me to do it for you? Because when they say help, what they really mean is, you do it for me. And students will draw a line and say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I will not do it. To which we have to say, okay. I have to give you a 0 on this scale because I have no evidence of what you've been able to do. I cannot help you on this. What is the student just going to get 0s all the time? Maybe so. Well, are they going to repeat? Are they going to repeat? That's getting into a whole other level of conversation of how we do scheduling, which is why I said earlier, proficiency-based and personalized learning is completely upending our institutionalized system of learning. Where it's not about a semester, it's not about their learning on our time. How might we create opportunities and environments for them to learn, but still keep to our mandates and our time frames? That's the design challenge that every school has to individualize. Yes?
You said the proficiency scale design is different than a rubric.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm an English teacher, and so I use rubrics and understand rubrics, and this seems similar to a rubric, but I'd like to hear kind of your...
Hold that thought, I'm getting to it.
Okay.
Okay? How are we doing on time? Where's the clock? Oh, perfect. So, we have 3 levels. We have content, complexity, and autonomy, independence. At a 2 level, we want our students to be independent, but they might only have a foundational level of understanding. They might not be proficient. If we set our systems up where everyone has to be proficient all the time, what we wind up doing is we wind up setting ourselves up for failure. It's saying kids have to be perfect all the time. Kids are far from perfect. I am as close to perfect as any human can possibly be, and you've seen what kind of a mess I am. Okay? By the way, I have a little bit of an ego problem. But you'll see here, what I've done here is I put up 4 standards. Straight from main learning results, English language arts, main learning results, mathematics, next generation science standards, Shape America, health standards. One of the things I asked you to do is to look at the things like the verbs. Complexity has to do with the verbs in particular. Underline or circle using your period deck thing there. The verbs. The level of complexity that's required. This is very important. The reason why this is so important is because all too often we will say that a student has met the standard. Yep, click and drag. They've met the standard. However, to what extent are our assessments actually measuring at the level of complexity? If it says analyze, and we've given a multiple choice test, and we're saying they've met the standard, there's no way a multiple choice test is going to be at a high level of complexity like an analysis. It doesn't work that way. Our brains don't work that way. That's going to be more of a comprehension or even a retrieval level. You'll understand what that means in a second.
No, I was looking, but I didn't want to change it.
I don't care. I don't care.
I covered mine when I did it.
So I didn't cheat.
Most people have said similar things. Analyze, develop, plan, and conduct an investigation to compare. Analyze. So we're doing basic sentence diagramming, a thing that people love about grammar, right? Yeah, I'm one of the weird people. I like accreditation stuff too. So you and I are solidarity in liking cool things. Okay? So we have to think about then, and think back to your own personal classrooms, the tests, the exams, the assessments that you give, that you provide opportunities for your students. If the standard says, analyze how particular elements of a story or drama interact, how do you measure that? How would you measure students in that?
I would say it's difficult because this is actually a reading standard, so my natural inclination is to have kids write about this to show their analysis, but then I'm also creating a writing standard. And sometimes
to write that?
They don't have to, but to show analysis, that for me is my go-to. What I think that
Can they analyze by talking?
easiest. Oh, definitely. But most of the time, I don't have the time to sit with each kid to do that. So usually that ends up being in writing somehow, so that I can sit on my couch at home and look at their analysis.
One of the things I love to do with stuff like that is have them just using programs like I'm going to use SoundCloud or SoundTrap, free apps, free programs. If you do any kind of music at all, music instruction, the big problem with music instruction is everyone does that as orchestra. It's hard to, or of course, it's very difficult to get individual performance. But doing it as a collective, how can you find if a student has grown individually? There are apps for that. SoundCloud, SoundTrap, where they can record themselves and then just submit it to you. And if you have any kind of commute going home, a 1-minute recording, if you have a 15-minute recording, you have 15 minutes or 20-minute drive home, you can listen to 10 on the way home. Now you're saving yourself time. And they're still able to show you that they know what they can do. Right? So, when thinking in terms of complexity, most people, a lot of folks are comfortable with this wheel. A lot of people are not comfortable because it says, oh, it brings me back to college and grad school. Please no. This is the Bloom's wheel, as you know, to help identify complexity. This is a great resource. It can be highly usable. We are using a different one in AOS 94 because it helps to scaffold better and it helps us to build scales a lot easier. The wheel is being a little circular. It doesn't necessarily help in terms of scaffolding for growth. So what we've gone and done is we are using, there we go. It should show up on your screen, on the other side of your screen. It should load up on the second half. Is it loading up? Perfect. Oh, it's in, if you click the link on the, there you go. It should open it up too. So then what you're going to see here, this is one of the most useful tools that we've had in terms of building scales. Because you can now see the words like analyze. What are the words and the verbs that can also be used for that? But also, what are the verbs that can be used below and above? Because one of the things that we want to know is the standard itself is the summative. It's the end. You have a question, by the way.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, along the same lines as the SoundCloud, like, YouTube video would work too.
Absolutely.
That's not, I guess, as usual on the car.
Absolutely. And that's also getting into flipping a classroom and getting to understanding how might we use technology. But there are apps to do all these things. It's just a matter of them asking the question. And don't even have to try to answer it yourself. Put it on your students. Okay, here's what we're going to do today. I want you to be able to analyze this, but you can't write it. You have to submit it. And it can't be one-to-one in person talking. Solve that problem. Put it on them. Put the learning and the responsibility of solving that problem onto them. They can collaborate. They can figure it out. They'll go and find it. And they will find responses and uses to that that you never would have thought of, that you don't know. And be honest with it. I don't know how you're going to do this. Show me. Find a way. You on Snapchat? Can I send you a snap? Why not?
I don't snap.
What?
I don't snap.
You can, but you can't have students as,
Why not?
friends on Snapchat school policy. Make a teacher one. A teacher versus a person. Make a classroom one.
Classroom Facebook page, classroom Pinterest, classroom Twitter page, all method. And one of the best things about that is you are meeting them where they are. That's how we build engagement. Meet them where they are. If you have problems in your community getting information out, one of the things that we're trying to do in our district now too is we did a lot of our forums and a lot of our communication things at our school. no one came. A lot of people don't come because they have a very negative history, negative perception of what schools are. So how might we be able to go to them? That's why our teams have done things like, hey, we present to the local Kiwanis group. You have a meeting there, we come to you. Yeah, it's 6 o'clock in the morning, we'll come. Just talk with you there. Having people try to be out in athletic events. Okay, we'll talk. Sure. More informal. If that's what your community wants. Some communities like having the stuff in the schools. Others don't. This tool in building a scale is critical. Having a taxonomy of understanding cognitive complexity and cognitive demand. Because if the standard says at an analysis level, that's the 3. With building a scale, you just kind of cut and paste the standard, the indicator, whatever it is. You cut and paste that in. A 2, you're going to keep the content the same, but you're going to reduce the level of complexity. If it was an analysis, you drop down to comprehension. This is the scaffolding. A 2 and a 1 are identical. When you see the scale that I gave you earlier, which we'll go back to, the 2 and the 1 language was identical except for the autonomy. The 3 is the cut and paste from the expectation. The 4, you go a step above. A 4 is not doing more work. It's not doing additional chapter in the text. It's not doing a little bit extra here. It's going deeper in terms of how you might be applying it. That's how you define common language and you build a proficiency scale. What did I have you do here? So you'll see exactly what we're talking about. The 3 is going back to that, analyze how a particular elements of a story or drama interact. That's what I want my students to be able to do. For this week, for this 2 weeks, this is what we're focusing on, right? These are the standards that we're focusing on. By the end of it, I should be able to give you this sentence, walk away, and you come back after a set period of time and show me something, that you're able to do this independently. The 4, it's not just analyzing. If you think back to that taxonomy, it's developing alternatives to how particular elements of that story. You're now not just looking at what's there, you're thinking of alternatives that could come in. You're now deepening understanding of not just analyzation. It's a workout. The 2 drops it down to a comprehension level. This is where understanding where is a 2 failing? No, a 2 is where they should be. If they're at a 3, they move on to the next level, to the next thing, or whatever it is. If a 2, they still need to be here working independently. That's where the problems of having a passing-based system and a proficiency-based system, personalized, that's one of the main areas where they were constantly conflict. And our schools are struggling with that still too. We're nowhere near perfect. We're still struggling with that idea. But we're cognizant of it, and you have to be constantly aware of it and saying, is it too bad? Yeah, the state says 2s are bad and their state assessments, but they're wrong in this. They have an agenda. We care more about student learning, not their political agenda. The 2 is not a bad thing. A 1 is not a bad thing. There's no value to any of this. It's simply informational. And that's another big difference.
Can I ask you a question about that?
You?
So I'm so the idea of, like you said, this is building at a 2 level. I'm actually running into this with my niece who's in 3rd grade, and she on her report card got a lot of 2s, and she kind of freaked out and went in,
Sure.
because she was confused. Her mother was confused about why she was getting 2s when her teacher kept telling her she's where she should be, she's where she should be. So is the idea not to giving a lot of parents and teachers, I guess, and students. Yeah, sorry.
Anxieties.
Yes, anxiety.
Tremendous
You
anxieties.
know, my student is not where they're supposed to be. And their teacher said to them, "Well, she is where she's supposed to be. Well, then why isn't she at a 3?"
I'm laughing because
We
My-
need honor staff.
my wife, who last time I checked lives in my house and has been married to me for nearly 2 decades now. We had a parent-teacher conference earlier this fall, and my daughter, who has been my 8-year-old, who's been who's in 3rd grade, she's typically been off charts, like she's getting 2s, and I'm sitting in the comments going, okay, because I get it.
Right.
She's flipping out.
Yes.
Why is she flipping out? Because there's this whole institutionalized idea behind it that the report card means this is who you are, this is what you will always be. When we have to really think about the summative grades are just a reflection of what that student is at that moment. It is a snapshot. A report card, a progress report is nothing more than, I printed this out today, here's where your student is right now. Tomorrow, crumple it up, throw it away.
Right.
They honestly, in a truly proficiency-based world, there are no summative. It's all formative.
Because it's always fluid and it's always
Correct.
flux and working. But at some point, we've got to put something down.
That's why the grade is. You say this is where your student is right now. If a student comes back, any teacher in here, I guarantee you, if a student were to leave your class at the end of May or end of June, early July this year, and says things like, "I'm at a 2." Okay, you're at a 2. This is where you are. If that, but you have to move on. I don't know if you're going to come back into class or how you're going to do it, whatnot. If that student were to come back, or if a student even historically got an F in a class, were to come back to you and independently said, I went and I did some work on this stuff over the course of the summer. I didn't take a summer school class, but I went, I was able to do this stuff and this stuff because I was really bothered by it. But here's what I've learned and here's what I want to show you. Would you mind taking a look and having a discussion with me to adjust my grade? What teacher wouldn't do that? What teacher wouldn't go down to guidance and say, this student has now proven the work, can we go back and change that grade retroactively? Or add a new grade into it?
Do you have good suggestions as to how to implement that as a system into your school?
Yes, build a common language of instruction. Create understanding of scales and whatnot. And continue to have the conversation collectively about why do we grade? What is our purpose for grading? I mean, if you ever have a faculty meeting, instead of having just a long list of agenda items, which could be emailed out to you, which drives me crazy, and I'm working with our building administrators to stop and actually have faculty time be more productive professional learning time. But it's challenging breaking down old barriers. It's very challenging breaking down old walls. Have you just had a common discussion of why we grade? Or is it just something we've always done? What is it? What does this do? And ask that question. Would anyone here do that? Would anyone change their grade? People would say no. Why not? Why wouldn't you? To the time? Is it because
A lot of people would say time.
Is it because that's what they did during that particular time and that should be fixed and never have to change because it's a reflection of what they did during that time? To which you could then say, is it about our time or is it about their learning? Why do we grade? And I think that we grade, what you'll start unpacking is most grading happens because it's easier for us to manage. It's easier for us to manage learning to get students in our room and out of our room. Move them through the system, move them through the conveyor belt. Move them on through. Lucy has those bonbons she's got to pick up and move through, and they keep speeding along, and then she's putting down her shirt and she's stuffing her mouth. We've all seen that clip. That's common language. Start with empathy. Always start with empathy.
So,
Because the thing is, a personalized proficiency-based system, there are tools, there are things you can use, there are frameworks, but it's going to be customizable for the building, for the district. It has to be.
With the 2 and the 3, a lot of people feel like a lot of formative work is more at kind of like a 2 level. I know you're saying summative, but and then a 3 is more of the summative, like at the school district I worked in that's not a part of this. Every formative piece you did was kind of your 2, like building block up to, and then when you took your summative, that was your opportunity to get the 3.
Mhm.
So you're saying that is not
Well,
a good way to go about that.
ideally, what you should be doing along the way with the scale, you should be saying if the 2 is at a describe, or if the 3 is an analysis and you're at a 2, that means this is what you can do right now. And I need to provide instructional opportunities and environmental opportunities for you to get to the 3. It might take you longer to get to the 3. So what does the 2 mean in your situation? How is the 2 defined?
2 is the lower level of complexity, but it is almost that building that base
Yep.
knowledge to get you up to that 3, because many students can't just take that, have a lesson, and then go to that 3. They
Right.
need to
And
build
it
up
goes
to
with
that.
it.
Right. So a lot of the formative assessments at the school I was at before, we had learning matrices, and the idea was that all of your formative stuff was at the 2 level, and then when you take your summative, that's your opportunity to get a 3. So really, all of their
Yeah, that's
formative work, their homework, was you couldn't get higher than a 2 because it was at a lower complexity until that final.
It all depends. So this is where you get into where scales can also then be differentiated and scaffolded. Because you have an overall standard scale or performance scale for the end piece of analyze this or analyze that. If you like that one. Thank you. Again, movies references constantly come through my head. You have your overall scale for this. This is the end piece. So if you think about proficiency-based learning as go from one learning target to the next learning target, right? This is one summative standard. The next one is over here. Analyze whatever thing that said. I forget now. That's your end goal. If you are at a where it says describing, if a student can describe that standard or at a comprehension level, they're able to do that. They're actually at a 3 at that level of scaffolding. They're not able to analyze. On the analyze standard, they're at a 2, but on the describe level, they're at a 3 because they're proficiently able to describe. So this is where it can get complicated, which is why I would say, don't do that. Stay with the 1 scale and say, you're at a 2. Here's why you're at a 2, because the numbers don't matter so much as the feedback involved with, here's what you have done so far, here's where you need to go and to do, here are my recommendations from here. Stay there. Otherwise, you could get into just a whole lot of. It becomes like a deconcentric circle, just spiraling out of control, and no one wants that. Simplified scales. But then it does come into question, well, how do you deal with the 2s? How do you deal with the 1s? And it's just supposed to be communication. It's supposed to be feedback. It's not supposed to, grades are not supposed to that way, where they're intended. They are not supposed to lead to major punitive judgments about a person. If they do, we use them in that way because we feel that it's all we have over them. But remember, grades only matter for those kids who care about getting grades. If a kid doesn't give a damn about getting grades, you can't hold a grade over them. They're like, fine, I'll get a D. I don't care. I know what I'm doing. I'm getting A's in all the tests. I don't have to do the homework. I know what I'm doing here. I don't care about the grade. I care about getting it, the test right. Cultural mindset, complete systems-based changes. Starts with common language, empathy work, scales, understanding the difference between a scale and a rubric. A scale is more done at the standard level, the performance or expectation level. A rubric is task-oriented. So you can have a standard that says analyze, blah, 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 and you might be able to assume who writes it, speaks it, there's a movie on it, etc. If you want to have a project, you might want to create a rubric for the project based on that standard. So in order to meet a 3 in a project, your project will have to have these little layers to it. And we often create rubrics, or like checklists, but they're not. But we often will create rubrics to act as a scale, but a scale is more global. A rubric gets down to a task. The scale is open to any task. Does that make sense?
If I just use the standard as my 3,
You're writing scales.
level up in 5, then I write okay.
So then if you say this is what you need to do, show me how to do it. It also if you're doing writing scales, you're going to want to see it in writing. But if you're doing an arts type scale, well, how are you going to show me this? Now the arts is broken into areas like dance and theater arts and visual arts and performance and visual theater, dance, music. I can't believe I forgot music. Thank you. I mentioned it earlier. So there's gradations within there.
Yes,
But still, it's performance.
It is all giant relation.
All right. Next question for you. Have you ever heard? Yeah. Have you ever heard of a capacity matrix? Go ahead and drag your dot. I'm going to assume that this one is. I think I have. This one is. I need a manicure. Same with this one. This one's really in need of a manicure. Oh, I like to put the dot right in the cufflink. The button there. A proficiency scale is for, as a curriculum director, a proficiency scale is for me. As a teacher, a proficiency scale is for you, the teacher. A capacity matrix is for the student. Because if we are going to flip the classroom and put the responsibility of the learning onto the learners' heads and onto their shoulders, we got here at 10? Yeah. All right. I've talked longer than I wanted to. But that typically happens with me. If we want to put it onto their shoulders, what we have to do is create opportunities for them to do it. So a capacity matrix, and I believe you should be seeing something similar to it. And again, these templates are available on the resource folder. What these do is they break your scale very similarly. What you're going to do is you're going to give these to your students. And you can create student-friendly language. Or even better, have them create the language. Work with them to understand the language. That way they will actually understand what they're working on and doing better than you handing it to them. Okay? And what they do here is they check off. I can do this on a box. I can identify this, I can identify that. And you as the educator in the room, you then say to them, oh, you can do this? Great, where's your evidence? Show me your evidence.
You're not going to hand this to a kindergartner or a first grader, so like how do
You absolutely can.
you can give them ones like this? They're like happy faces.
You can
This is
use,
one we use.
yes,
We have, like,
you can use happy faces. You can have them as charts where they put stickers on.
We have third and fourth graders doing it.
We do too.
Did my first year teaching.
This is one of the most powerful tools because it is putting the response, is exactly the tool to use to put it into the hands of the learner. And then one of the is it's not just you making the decision, it's your students proving to you that they have the learning. So it's like, show me what you got. And if you do this enough times, I know it seems like a lot. If you do this enough, you'll have enough evidence, your students, you can see the growth over time. And you wind up having more conversations and more qualitative narrative feedback with your students so you know where they are instead of having to grade a test, come up with an overall grade and plug it into a thing where then it then becomes passive for them. It's a grade happening to them instead of they are putting the effort and showing their evidence and explaining it. Does it take more time on your end? Yeah, it does. Absolutely. But what are we doing? Why are we doing it? It's for their learning. So how are we building in the systems for them? And if you want really good examples of these and how they're actually put into play, down in RSU2, which is Hallowell and Monmouth and Richmond, I believe, they are doing this K-12 in all of their buildings. And Matt Shea is their Director of Student Achievement, SAGA. He's on Twitter at Eat Sleep Stats. He's an AP Stats teacher too. And he is just very accessible. So since we're about out of time, I'm not going to be able to do my job in a way of getting you to be able to show your learning, but that's okay. And I do apologize for not getting more of the practical stuff, which is the end of today. I guess my original planning, I thought we had 2 hours instead of an hour and a half, because that's what we'd be doing now.
It's okay, we're at a 2.
What's that?
It's okay, we're at a 2.
I think it's fine, if that's where you think you are. Is this a draggable slide?
Yes.
Where you think you are now in comparison to when you came in. If you came in looking for things like tech tools for measuring proficiency-based learning, sorry, you've been duped. Kind of. Pear Deck is the best.
I've never seen it. I've heard of it, but I've never
Pear Deck is the best one that I've seen. If or when I go back into the classroom, my classroom, whether it's at an elementary level where I started off, or a high school level where I ended off, everything is going to be through Pear Deck. And it's a BYOD. You can use any device to access it. You can use any device to use it. You don't have to be a one-to-one school as long as the student has a device. If the student doesn't have a device, it becomes a little more challenging. And there are other tools that you can use for that. But Pear Deck takes the passiveness of the presentation and puts it into them as well. So you see them on screen. That's one of the best ones. But that and Google Drive, tech tools, that's all you need. But biggest tools, mindset, empathy, common language, developing a common language of instruction, scales, matrices. What we've just gone through today. You can't get any more powerful than that.
So I have a question. What do you say to districts who are telling us that we all need to teach through the same tools, like e-backpack, and those that use Edmodo or use Pear Deck or use Google Drive need to be able to go to e-backpack because it's easier for students?
What would I say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just
What would I
saying,
say?
that's do you think that that's a legitimate?
I think that if we are going, I think we need to model model the behaviors that we want people to see. That we want to be seen. We We need to model that. If all we do for professional learning opportunities is provide things like some Yahoo at the front with a beard and long hair is going to speak to us for an hour and a half and not let us really collaborate and talk. I feel really bad about that actually. If that's all if we're going to sit for 6 hours in a session or in a teacher workshop day on differentiation and have some Yahoo at the front talk to us about differentiation, that's not modeling differentiation. If we want to build a personalized or proficiency-based learning environment, our professional learning has to model personalized and proficiency-based learning. Oh, sorry. That's what was not. We have to model that. So what I would say is, what are the goals of your learning? What are the goals of learning in your district? Are they to only use one tool and to teach students one tool? Or are they broader than that? And how might your staff show, because there's not one tool for everybody. Pear Deck might not work for you. So I would say the important thing is, how are you using informational technology to do this? Create a plan. Yes, sir.
Earlier you had mentioned saying to the students, this is what I expect you to do, like here's the standard, just figure it out.
Yeah, I did.
So, do you think that in leading up to that completely open-ended version of that, would it be a good idea to sort of give students a menu of things that they could do on like the first or second round, like model it?
Perfect question.
Hey, we're going to do this. These are 4 things you could do.
You have to remember where your students are and what your students have gone through, depending on how old they are, whether they're in 3rd grade or whether they're in 12th grade. They've gone through an institutionalized system that has taught them learned helplessness. And the moment you teach them to be independent, or you say, go do it on your own, they're going to look back at you and say, just tell me what to do. Which, by the way, I have staff tell me and adults tell me the same thing. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. Why do they do it? Because it's easier for them. It's easier for them for me to do all the work. But guess what? You're the learners. You do it. But you have to do it gently. You have to build to it. Because you are literally having to break the leg to fix it. And they're not going to want to be autonomous. They say they want to be left alone. They say they want to just let me do my job. Just let me do what I need to do. But we put this, well, tell me how to do it. Tell me what to do. Hang on, you just said this, and now you want that. So you have to build it in intentionally. You have to build them up to be able to be that intense. You have to create those frameworks first where they have, you gently can let go of the choice. Here's this. We're all going to do it this way. Now some of you can do it this way. How about you do it this way? And you build to that. Do not just cut the rug out from underneath you, because it won't work for them. And then you'll say, it didn't work, I'm just going to go back to doing what I always did. Know where they are. Understand their psychology. I'm available via email. I don't want to take it. We're done. But email, tweet, whatever. Thank you for your time. Again, I apologize for talking all the time.
No worries.
Let me send you what the capacity matrix that I sent you.
Thanks for your time, Matt.
Absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, that was great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Have fun.
If I emailed you, would you be able to share some 3rd grade capacity matrices?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I want to see what it looks like. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm sending you mine right now. Okay. It's on page, I guess. Whoa. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
letting me barrage you with questions.
No, I loved it. Thank you for your time.